2.5 years ago, I found this lovely, low miles, 11,400 to be exact, 1990 Mazda Miata in Boca Raton, Florida. Okay, it was being used as a shelf by some 80-year-olds and hadn't been on the road in a good number of years. The car was in fairly decent shape, and we picked it up and brought it back to North Carolina. Now, first thing we did, aside from cleaning it up, was to redo the stereo in it. We pulled out the original stereo and put in an Alpine-based system, and now we're going to add an amplifier to it. Okay, I will go through what we did and where we're going next. We're going to be adding an Alpine KTP-445A power amplifier to the system. Should be simple enough to plug in. It simply plugs in between the car's harness and the amplifier's input. It does not use the RCA outputs and uses all the original wiring in the car. Bit of a compromise, but I didn't want to get involved with rerunning speaker wires and all that. So we will get on from here. Now for the doubters, there's a shot of the odometer, which verifies that we have the 14,500 miles on it, 524 to be exact. Now the changes we made, we went with an Alpine CDE-136BT headpiece. The front end has Bluetooth and a USB port right up front, and I tend to leave the USB stick in there for my media library. So it's always there, always on, ready to go. Nice little unit, and on its own seems to provide a fair bit of power, but wanted to go a little better. Now the speakers on the car were shot, and we put in a set of Polk Audio Dxi650s in the front, and they were direct drop-in. I did use the hub that comes with them to install them, and they fit nicely. In the headrests, we put a pair of Pyle PLX. In the headrest, we put a pair of Pyle PLX32s in each headrest, and these worked out very nicely. I also corrected the wiring mismatch that exists on many Miatas of the period in the harness under the seat that goes to these headrest speakers. Now these were a press fit. They fit nicely, they're snug, and it was an easy install. So the next thing we're going to do is put the amplifier in. Now also the Polk speakers fit directly into the original mount position, but they also fit under the original trims, so I didn't have to do any cutting or fitting to get the original plate back on or use the aftermarket plate that came with the speakers. Now finally, in the system, we added a sound Ordinance B8-PT subwoofer. This is a very shallow unit, fit nicely behind the seat, was able to wire it through the trunk directly to the battery, since this car has the battery in the trunk, and the control for it is in the glove box between the seats. I'm not going to bother opening it. It's just a little rotary control that goes in there to control the volume of the subwoofer. Now the 445A comes with 2 wiring harnesses and the unit itself. So that's what we got in the box, plus some simple instructions. We'll find out how simple they are in a couple minutes. The preliminary wiring was as easy as they said. I pulled the head unit. One of the harnesses plugs into the amplifier, and the other end into the back of the head unit. The other harness plugs into the other end of the amplifier, and it plugs into the car harness. So we got that. We got a mess of wires now, and now I'm going to see if I can neatly get this buttoned up and get the unit hidden. And before we do, we did try it, and the sound was rather nice. I know you know I'd do the same for you. I'm not the kind that likes to drown my sorrow. I may hate myself. Now the sound was pretty good before, but it did fill it in, and I guess in retrospect you could say the sound was a bit thin to start with, and this did make a difference. So we'll see what happens in buttoning it up and getting it back together. And sorry about the buzzer, but the release for the shift lever doesn't seem to want to work without the key in. So had to make do. I was going to mount the amplifier under this passenger seat, but after pulling the carpet back, when I was going to snake the wires through, I discovered there's a little nook right next to the transmission tunnel. And given the size of the amplifier, it fit right into it very nicely. Used Velcro to hold it in place, and it's not in the way of the feet. I'll be putting this back together, and you can see what it looks like when it's all together. But it really turned out to be a very easy install. Took longer to take the movie than to get the amplifier in and running. And here we go. It's all put back together, nice and neat, and plenty of foot room, unless you got a size 23 foot. So now we'll fire it up and see how it sounds. We now have a definitely fuller sound than we had before. Very happy with the difference, and in a car this size it should prove more than adequate. So very happy with the install, and nice, neat, relatively simple way of getting a little extra power. So have fun and have a great day.